You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. No fluff, just their experiences and stories from people who are making it happen. And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocalwarmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals. Now, on to the show. Hey, well, welcome for joining us here today. We're the Live Local Marketing Podcast. Sarah, how are we feeling today?
Oh, good. Cold, but ready to go on a Friday. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You have your tea and you're all ready to answer some questions,
ready.
right?
Let's dive in.
All right. We're going to do a little bit about Sarah first and then get right into the questions. Sarah is Book Launcher's marketing expert, self-publishing book service. With over 20 years experience in publishing and entertainment industry experience, she's helped over 800 authors launch and market their books. From bestseller strategies to leveraging strategies for sales, she works with authors to identify their brand, develop marketing strategies, set themselves apart in this crowded creator market. Mm-hmm. She started her career in the literary department of a global booking agency before becoming a speaking agent with a roster of best-selling authors, celebrities, athletes, and business leaders, which I'm excited to hear more about. She managed New York Times best-selling authors, produced TV events like TEDx, and was an entertainment journalist covering TV news and red carpet interviews for leading entertainment websites. That is a big old resume. So
I've done a lot.
This is going to be a good one. All right, ready for questions.
Let's bring it. Let's do it.
As a very experienced entrepreneur, what do you consider your first win?
Oh, okay. So going way back in my career when I was still in my booking agency days, I think my first big win was selling a horror property to a publisher, selling my first fiction book to a publisher. That was a huge win. I worked in this department that was very focused on certain types of books, and I wanted to bring in books that I loved. And so, I just helped this little indie author get a deal. Now, it was a small deal, but I was a young agent. So, it didn't matter. It was that first one. And then sort of everything started building from there. In my current role at Book Launchers, I will say my wins are always tied to what my clients get to do, to what our authors get to do. I remember our first books back when we first started in 2017, 2018. And that first book that we bring to market, when you see it up there on Amazon, you see sales start coming in, you start seeing opportunities for those clients. Some of those are still the ones that stick out of my mind. I would say also some of my biggest wins have to do with those media opportunities we get for clients. Yeah, we had an author who had a story that just happened to coincide with some things that were happening in the world. And so getting that client on 2020 and Inside Edition and some of those big tier ones, I mean, those are definitely you would think it was my book because I get so excited. I dance around the house. I just really like to share in that success and know that I had a small part in getting their book out in front of people. So really my wins come when my clients get their books into their reader hands. That's the best thing I can do.
That is awesome. All right, I'm going to take a step back. You said the very first indie book. What seems to be your favorite genre of books? Where do you gravitate?
Oh, that's a great question. So I work solely in nonfiction. All of my clients are nonfiction readers. And when it comes to that, I really love life stories. I love memoirs. I love books that just take a really fascinating look at something different. In my personal life, I'm fiction all the way. I read a lot of fiction. I read romance. I read fantasy. I read classics. Right now I'm reading Wuthering Heights. So
Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, I had to take it back old school. So I have a pretty variety. I have a good variety that I like to choose from, and it always comes down to what I'm feeling in that moment, what my brain needs.
That is so true. That is so true. All right, good. So we're going to shift gears. What is your best habit as an entrepreneur while you're working with these clients?
Oh, best habit. Okay. So I would say some of the most important things that I put into place are understanding really who that author is and what it is in their background that makes them the right person to write that book.
Got it.
Because, in this day and age, when you have AI writing books in a couple of hours, what's going to differ? Yeah, exactly. They're not good, but they're out there. But what's really going to make a solid book is that story that's behind it, why that author is the best person. And so that is probably the first thing that I put in place with every author. Like, who are you? Why are you writing this book? What it is in your background that really stands out, because that story is what's going to make it sell. That's what's going to bring people into the fold and get them really excited about it. So I would say that is my first like habit with all of our authors is defining that. Let's get to the root of that.
So you're good at pulling out brand, essentially. Is that really kind of what it comes down to?
Yeah.
You're good at identifying brand and pulling it out. So what are some of the things do you ask certain questions of them? Do you just read their books? Like, how do you pull brand out of a book from an author? Right, well, a quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
I do. I have a really in-depth conversation with it. I kind of jokingly call it our therapy session, because I sit there with clients, and even though they've filled out forms and I have their book, there's something about that, just conversation, that free-flowing conversation that really like lets people bring things out. And so I just sit there. How'd you get started? What made you interested in this? What were the things that happened? And next thing you know, 25 minutes later, they've told me their whole life story. And I go, okay, let's go back to this, because that I think is your turning point. How can we work that into your copy, your website, what you're doing moving forward? And I love it when I have authors come back and be like, wow, I didn't think of it that way. That to me is a big win as well.
Do you ever have to tell authors, no, I can't work with you based on those interviews?
No, not too often, but generally that's because we vet our authors before they become clients. We have these conversations before they pay us a dime. We want to know, who are you? Why are you writing this book? Is this a book that we think could take place in the market? And if they haven't worked out some of those ideas, it's generally not a no. It's a go work on these concepts and come back, and then we can take it from there. Yeah.
That makes complete sense. All right. So talk to us about a marketing truth in the booking space that you wish more people knew about.
There's a couple, but the first big one that comes to mind is that marketing is not sales. They think it's the same, and very often they get grouped together, but marketing is brand awareness. It's getting your book or your product in front of people. Now, the sales is often a byproduct of that, and that's why they are often grouped together. But there is a difference between marketing your book and then selling your book. There's different strategies for those. Marketing is about awareness, getting the book in front of people to the point where they feel comfortable to trust that brand, trust that product. So very often marketing, there's that old adage, it used to be you have to put a product in front of someone 7 times before they trust it enough to purchase. That's actually gone up now. It's now closer to like 12 to 15. Really? So you have to have that book or that product in front of people often. That is awareness. Whereas in sales is what's making them take that final step to put the dollar down, right? So they're different things. The other thing that I think comes with marketing, and this is really something we're seeing more often, is like we were saying, that idea of story, something for people to connect to within that brand. That is going to be gold moving forward, because as AI becomes more prevalent when it comes to marketing, those personal stories, that connection point, that human to human connection is going to be more important than ever. So AI can do a lot of phenomenal things, and I can go on to all day about all the things that AI can do to help you. But at the end of the day, the personal story is the one that people react to. That's what they really dig into.
You say 12 touch points. That surprises me in this day and age of such easy access to like interviews like we're doing now, and YouTube videos and workshops and all these long form content that helps bridge these trusts faster. Do you do some of those or utilize some of those as part of your 12 touch points?
I mean, absolutely. And 12 is not a hard and fast number. It's just that concept of like trying to be out there more often. But think about it in terms of, someone wants to build their social media strategy and therefore they're out and they're investing all this money into ads or into, just getting content out there. Well, social media can be pretty passive, right? Someone is seeing you as they're seeing 100 other people. They're not bought in on that. So you have to take it a step further. And then that goes into the email marketing, goes into the availability of courses, workshops, speaking engagements. Now, let's say you saw someone on social media, you saw them on someone else's podcast, and then you see them on a stage. All of that is going to be a good trifecta. Yeah. And maybe and I do think it's interesting. I don't think all 12 points or 7 points have the same weight. They don't all have the same weight. Right.
Yeah. So, you hear somebody speaking, like you're going to probably buy that book when it's over.
Yeah. Exactly. If someone hands you. Yeah. So you have to look at, how do I have a well-rounded approach to getting in front of people? I can't just put all my eggs in one basket. I need to be able to build a very well-rounded marketing plan so that I'm on stage, I'm in their ears, I'm on their email, I'm in their social media, kind of like all around. But again, at the end of the day, though, those 12 touch points mean nothing if you're not connecting with that reader on a human level or connecting with that buyer at the human level. So you have to, it's not just quantity, it's the quality of what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful answer. We thankfully went over on that one. That was a great answer. So I'm glad to go over sometimes. I'm good. What's some of the things that you still do hands-on when you meet clients, and what things do you pass off to a team or a VA or AI?
Oh yeah. Great question. I mean, a lot of those, oh gosh, man, I can go into my whole process. Really, the touch points that I still have with clients and that I insist upon are those one-on-one phone calls where we're breaking down what's working and what's not working, right? That to me is one of the most important things, because I want to have that touch point with clients where we can go, okay, this resulted in these actions. What else do we need to put in place to get you closer to that goal? Okay, these ones didn't work so well. Why didn't they work? Okay, what can we adjust to move forward? And so those conversations, I think, are incredibly valuable, because you're going to get so much out of that person with, talking and hearing what they are struggling with. The things that you can pass off to AI or to other team members are some of the, sort of build up pieces, creating marketing assets. I overview all of our marketing assets, but I have a team, a really phenomenal team that builds them and brings them to me to make sure that the conversations I have match with what we're creating for that client. Things like setting up promotions or doing some of the things that take a long time but have been big impact. I've got great team members that are in and out of there all day touching those pieces. So, really the things that I still do are work with our team on the messaging. Did everybody nail exactly what this client is trying to do, who they are and who they're trying to reach? And once I see that stuff start to kind of go off course, that's when we work together as a team to bring it back. Mm-hmm. There's just so many pieces.
Yeah. How big is your team?
So book launchers, we have a team of, about 12, and then we've got some 30 to 40 contractors that we work with on a regular basis. So most of my team members are all in-house that I work with.
That's a big group. All right. So next phase, as people are writing books and getting their book together, they're always kind of worried about budgeting. How much budget do they need to do this? How much do they need to do the marketing? What advice do you have for them? How can you help prepare them to have the funds to get their book out there and get it launched?
Yeah. So the great news is there are some incredible tools out there for marketing, even if you don't have a huge budget. It, used to be that you could, you'd want to spend thousands and thousands on a big PR campaign or a big marketing agency. And those still exist and they do have their purpose. But if you were looking at, I've got a really small budget, maybe you have under $500. What are the tools that you can use in the time of AI that can make some of that work easier for you? I'm going to talk about Author Launch Kit at the end, but that's, one of those things that we put into place for authors. That's an incredibly affordable option. Not everybody can pay all of that. The other thing that I would say that doesn't really cost you a ton, but it will have huge impact is networking. Joining groups online, joining groups in your community, understanding who the organizations and groups are that talk about the same things that you talk about, that maybe share your target audience. networking usually isn't going to cost you a ton. It's going to, maybe it's an evening out where you're doing a networking event, or maybe it's attending a conference, but making those connections can have huge dividends back, right? You're going to get a way, way more opportunities, and you're going to understand the lay of the land much better so that your messaging hits. So those are two of the things. Look for the tools that are out there now, because AI has cracked open this huge Pandora's box of tools that can really, really help you market well and market efficiently. But next, don't discount that in-person networking where you can shake someone's hand, understand their energy, and make a connection.
You use the word opportunities, which sparked another question I have for you real quick. Is
So
when you have selling a book for the sake of selling the book is a totally different mission than selling the book to have other services, other opportunities like speaking or courses. Or do you also teach them how to align that book up with other services? Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. That's a huge part of what we do. Is first thing on that first call that I have clients is getting down to the goal. What do you want to see this book do for you? Once it's on market, what's that next, sort of long-term goal? Where do you want to see it in 5 years? And usually the answers are, it's getting me onto a stage. It's the tip of my funnel. It's the tip of my, it goes along with my course and my workbook. And so understanding that very early in the book process is vital for our team, because then we can ensure that the book you create is one that is in line with your long-term goals, right? There's no point writing a book and creating it if it doesn't fit into your bigger picture. So that aspect of it is incredibly valuable and something we spend a long time doing. Yeah.
Makes sense. That makes sense. I just want the folks who are like listening to this be like, oh, I'm gonna write a book, and I'm just write like, you got to have bigger goals than that. Like you have to really, before you sit down with Sarah, like you have to have something in mind. So
absolutely, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to know what to measure on the other end of it, right?
Yes.
Sales aren't the only metric that you need to be tracking. There are a lot of other ones that are out there. So that could be more important, right? If you sell 10 copies of your book, but you get one of those copies as someone who's going to book you on a bigger stage, you've just done your job, so sales aren't the only metric to take a look at.
All right, let's talk about sales. So we're talking about sales. What strategies don't you use anymore? Like we used to, now it's not good anymore. ROI is not there. We just tossed it.
It's really interesting. It doesn't necessarily, it's not sales itself, but really it's that idea that the book has to be a bestseller in order to be credible or useful. Completely false. But people that chase bestseller lists are making, they're kind of not necessarily making the right choice for their long-term strategy, because at the end of the day, being a bestseller, it's a marketing tool. It's a tactic. It's something that you can put onto the front of your book that, it lends it some credibility, but there are a lot of other ways and strategies out there to get your book into the marketplace. So, and we still do this with clients. A lot of times people come and they say, I want to be a bestseller. Great. We're going to put the things in place to make you that. And we will do that. We've done it time after time. This week, we have some bestsellers that are topping the Amazon charts. Cool. It's great to see. But once those sales kind of drop off, if you don't have a long-term plan in place, it's going to do nothing for you.
Yeah.
So right now, the biggest thing that I wouldn't say that we're dropping it, but we do not put a huge emphasis on be a bestseller. It's not going to get you what you want. Like, it's not going to get you where you want to go. So, and I've worked with many best-selling authors. I've worked with New York Times best-selling authors. I've worked with authors that, have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. But usually it's just like a happy byproduct of all of the other tactics they're putting into place. Yeah.
Do you ever have people sit in the meeting and say, listen, I want this book to put me on TV? You ever get that kind of conversation? Because you've had a lot of experience in that realm.
Yeah.
So
all the time.
How does that go? Like, it's not that easy.
I'm pretty frank about it. Writing a book is generally not going to be a reason you're on TV. I mean, it'll help. It gives you some credibility, but really at the end of the day, what the people are looking for is how you're going to help their audience solve a problem. So I always try and tie that idea back to something that's happening at large. So, some examples of this. Number one, I tell people this, if they want to be on some big top tier TV show or news, Today Show, Good Morning America, go and look at the books that they've covered for the last few weeks or for the last few months. What are the things that they covered? because chances are your book is not one of them. Like your topic is not one of them. There are very specific things that they like to cover. Yeah. It's usually, does it come from a celebrity? What is it doing that is going to be of general interest? And if you're writing a niche business book, Today Show is not necessarily going to be your best spot, you know? So I really look at the why. What are they hoping to get out of that TV spot? What are they hoping is going to be, you know, the coverage that they're going to talk about? And then we try to identify better ones that are more in line with their long-term goal. I've known authors that have gone on Good Morning America and others and not moved books because of it. It happens. So it's interesting
I wouldn't think most authors that's their goal in the end, but it was just with the experience. I just figured that was a great question in case we have some people that are like, I just want to be on TV. It was a good question for our situation right now. I just don't think that that's most authors. I don't think that's usually their end goal, but
no, does your book tie to something that the general public is going to care about, you know? So the best way to kind of put this is, you know, let's say you have a cybersecurity book. The time in which you're going to be on those big shows is when there's a cybersecurity threat that's happening in the news. Are you? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, exactly. Like,
makes sense.
It's not just going to be any old random Wednesday that they want a cybersecurity person on. It's going to be because something has happened that they need to bring an expert in on, or it might be tied to a bigger message. How to cybersecurity for parents, cybersecurity for kids, you know, those types of broad appeal work much better. Whereas if it's just, hey, I wrote a budgeting book, that book can be really valuable, but if you can't tie it to something that's going to be appealing to, you know, 6 million people, then they're not going to have you. So
other goals, people set other goals.
So
you're running other goals. You are running teams, you are meeting authors, you are doing the marketing, you're trying to get people on TV, Good Morning America all the time. And so how do you avoid burnout? How do you just stop every once in a while and reflect and relax and not do too much?
That's a great question. I remind myself and sometimes I remind my clients that this is not brain surgery or, you know, we're not saving lives here. Potentially, maybe long-term, maybe save lives. But at the end of the day, once, you know, it's outside of work hours, I really try to log off. I try to focus be present with my family. I have 2 youngs. I have 2 littles that at the end of the day, when it's time for mama to get off the computer, it's time to get off the computer. So I really take the time to, you know, not pay attention to email. Don't look at a lot of notifications on the weekends. Have a little bit of that separation. The other thing that I think I really do is I do try and just follow up on my own interests. I obviously love reading. I love writing. I like to spend time doing things that are not work related. There was a time in my past where I couldn't even pick up a book because it automatically took me back to whatever I was dealing with at work. And so, and it was terrible because it's one of my fundamental joys is reading. So I think the biggest thing I do is sort of try to compartmentalize and realize that I can be mom, I can be my own person, and I can be marketer. I'm all of those things. I just have to be in different gears at different times.
Do you, so you said you used to do TEDx stuff and live events. Do you have a favorite or like a TEDx that you're like, that was really cool that we all should check out?
Oh gosh. Yeah. So I did TEDx Malibu. I guess this was about 10 years ago. And we just had some of the most interesting people that came out from that event. Yeah. I mean, we had musicians that were doing cool and interesting things. We had adult entertainment stars. We had people who help people transition to the other side, you know, sort of death Sherpas. And it was all through the lens of desire. So it was a really interesting one. So look out TEDx Malibu Desire. That was one that I did about 10 years ago. And I'm actually working on another TEDx now that's going to be taking place in Michigan this June. So we're in the early stages there. So, you know, I think TED events, the best thing about TED events is that everything ties back to the motto of ideas we're spreading, right? Yes. So what are the ideas? It's not products we're spreading. It's not influence we're spreading. It's ideas. What are the ideas? And so I really love to work with speakers on that.
Oh, I'm sure it's just a fascinating. You get to meet most fascinating people. I'm sure it's a
Oh, I
Wow.
do have a good plug. Yes, actually, a
Good.
book
Do it.
launchers author. Yes, one of our book launchers
Okay.
authors, Robert Bell. His book, he's an accountant from Africa who really brought in that idea of creativity at any job. That doesn't matter what your job is, your personal creativity is what's going to make you good at that job, whether you're an accountant or a writer or what have you.
Yeah.
He did a TED Global, and it was based on some of the work that we had done with him. And his
That's cool.
presentation, Robert Bell, Belle. Go check out his presentation on money.
Yes.
It's phenomenal.
Perfect.
The language of money. It was a really fantastic presentation that he did. So I highly
There you
recommend
go.
that one.
That's what I was trying to drag one of them out of you. I wanted
Look
to
at one
learn
of
one.
them.
I was trying to get
Yeah.
one out of you, but I know it's
Yeah.
tough because there's so many of them.
There's so many
Perfect.
great
That is
speakers.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I could sit here and ask you a million more questions about the marketing side of books and how you do it in such a creative
Yeah.
way. But we're going to get right to the
Mhm.
outro. You're going to talk about your business
Mhm.
and how people can get a hold of you, especially if they have a book that they want to market or have an
Yeah.
idea. And so that way they can get sit down and just pick your brain a little bit more in depth than we are able to cover today. So
Yeah,
without further ado, have
absolutely.
at it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. So Book Launchers is your full service self-publishing team. Work with authors to write, edit, design, and publish and market their best-selling or brand-building book. And so really our goal is always to ensure that those books that we create are as high quality as those New York Times bestsellers and other ones that you see on the shelf. You should be able to put them on the shelf and not tell a difference at all, because these are such high quality. But one of the things that I'm most excited about is that we recently launched Author Launch Kit, which is an AI-powered marketing software for nonfiction authors. So talking about those tools that are incredibly affordable, that are really going to help you out, where to start if you're marketing your book, Author Launch Kit, check that out. It's authorlaunchkit.com. And you can get 7 days free by trying it out. Just go test it out, play with it, see all of the really cool. There's over 20 publishing and marketing tools built right into it. And it's built with Book Launchers experience, working with over 800 authors in the last 6-7 years. So I'm super excited about Author Launch Kit. We're
That's
already
awesome.
seeing some great impact. And if you're looking to get in touch with me or learn more, go to booklaunchers.com/7steps. You get our free little tool, and then you can send me, you're going to get an email and you can reply back to that email, and I will be able to get in touch with you right away.
That is amazing. So we all know the AI resources are out there, but in the end, you're going to need somebody like Sarah to sit down and actually the 80-20 rule. 80% of AI can make it for you, but the 20% of where it actually lands and you actually get sales is going to come from Sarah. So you have to have that nice little mix. And so be sure you reach out, especially if you have a book on the way. And Sarah, thank you for your time today and your awesome stories and your TEDx suggestions and all the great stuff we did today.
I appreciate it, Billy. Thank you so much for having me on. You know, I checked out your book. I'm excited to look more into it. I saw it up. I was like, yeah, okay. He knows what we're talking about today. So I love it. So congrats on
awesome.
that, on that launch.
A fun little plug at the end. I like it. I like it. All right, ma'am. You have a wonderful day. And thank you for your time today.
Appreciate it. Have a good one. Thank you.